Hi, Scott. I just saw where your name's coming up as Sarah.
I noticed I got an email addressed to Sarah Harkness, so that must be why.
Yeah, I am updating it right now.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Kaitlin.
Hi.
Hey, Kaitlin.
Hi, Scott. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good.
Hope
Days
you're off
off.
to. I hope you're off to a good New Year.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
That's a low bar.
True, but I'll take it where I can get it.
Yeah.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good,
Hi.
thanks. How are you?
Good. I'm not on, oh, good. I'm not on mute. Never know how it's going to show up.
I know. Hi, Marie.
Hi. Can you guys hear the baby in the background? The baby, the 3-year-old, or is it okay?
No.
Okay, cool.
I still call my baby. I still call her a baby too, and she's 2. So.
Well, when he's screaming because I left, then it's even more.
I understand. I've explained. I had a remote hearing with a judge, and my baby was just not having it.
Oh,
And I
no.
had to explain, like, please forgive the sounds of torture.
Yeah, he's fine. I just haven't been out in a while.
Yeah. You say he's 3, Marie?
He's 3 now. Yeah, I think he's like he's like a month or so off from your grand baby
Yeah.
or something.
Baby. Look at
You
that.
know, I've never understood why people think 2-year-olds are the most difficult age, because I think it's 3, just routinely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope it doesn't get worse.
He's actually really like very wonderful and easy most of the time. It's just that like I literally haven't gone anywhere since
Yeah.
November. So
Yeah.
But I agree with you.
there's a baby.
Yeah, I was like, sorry, I'm gonna be tag teaming with my
That's
husband. So
okay.
Piper is gonna join us for a little while.
Oh.
How old is he?
She's 6 months today.
Wow.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah.
That's great.
The time
Yeah,
goes
time
by
goes so
quickly.
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not hear from Guy whether he was going to be attending. Andy is he's not feeling great. He said
Yeah.
he'd join in just to make sure there was a quorum, and I told him I would reach out if we needed him to.
We need one more, right?
We do. Tonight is Guy's last meeting.
Oh, really?
He's not going to reapply.
What's the normal term? Like
3 years.
3?
Yeah.
And do they always start in January?
February, I think.
Either February or July.
Okay.
I think Guy's kids are right at that age. Oh, there he
Oh,
is.
there we go.
I think they're at that age. He's probably going in all directions.
And if you've been out in a while, it might be fun to try something different.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
There's
there's
Andy.
Andy.
Hey, Andy.
I'm still fighting off COVID, so I'm gonna be pretty quiet tonight.
Well, Andy, I think with Guy, we have a quorum if you don't want to stay on.
I'll stick around.
Okay. Hopefully you're feeling better. Everyone at my work has COVID. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I
the
know
clicker.
so many, yeah, I know so many people with it now.
It's no fun either. It's awful. And I'm vaxxed and boosted.
Yeah.
And it's rough.
Yeah, that's how everyone is. It's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, everyone I know who's caught it recently has been vaccinated and boosted. So
Yeah.
it's a little scary.
Yeah, same here.
All right, well, it's 7:01. I think we can, I'll call the meeting to order. Debbie, if you want to do roll call.
All right, Chair Amy Wilson,
Present.
Vice Chair Marie Hoda,
Present.
Bryn Dunny,
Present.
Scott Gilbert,
Present.
Guy Mason,
Present.
Andy Sakaris,
Present.
and we have our new Englewood School Liaison, Dwayne Tucker.
Present. Good evening, everyone.
Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome. Excused, we have Sarah Harkness, Austin Stryker, and City Council, our new City Council Liaison, Chelsea Newcamp. And guests, we have Kaitlin Parker, Assistant City Attorney. We have Assistant City Manager Tim Dodd. We have Technical Services Librarian Selene Gardner, and Director Christina Underhill. I think I got everyone.
Yep.
Okay, I'll share screen.
All right, first up, we have approval of the minutes. A long, long time ago, back in November.
They looked good to me, but I was not there. So if someone else wants to.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposing? All right, thank you. Next up, we have public comment, which I don't believe we have anyone from public comment here.
We do not.
What was that?
We do not
Okay.
have public comment.
And so that brings us to new business with Kaitlin.
Hi. So I'd like to share my screen, but I'm not super tech savvy, so please forgive me if I don't do this correctly. So hang on, let me try. Let's see. Can you all see a PowerPoint right now?
Yes.
can.
Cool. All right. So I will just start. So I'm here to present on the proposed ordinance amending the city's trespass, ejectment, and exclusion procedures from city property. And in 1985, the city adopted the trespass and park ejectment municipal code sections 7-6F-2 and 11-4-3. And it appears that they haven't been revised since that time based on a review of the legislative history within Muni Code. However, there's been a recent trend in case law across the nation involving due process challenges to similar municipal ordinances pertaining to exclusion from parks, libraries, and so forth. And based on those due process challenges, courts have been striking down those ordinances. This has indicated the need for revision of Englewood's trespass and ejectment municipal code sections 7-6F-2 and 11-4-3. So a proposed ordinance has been carefully drafted based upon extensive legal research and analysis, as well as input that's been obtained from the municipal prosecutor, the Englewood Police Department, and city staff, including library staff. The proposed amendment of section 7-6F-2, which applies to the criminal conduct of unlawfully trespassing onto another's property, would expressly indicate that violation of section 11-4-3 can form the basis for a trespass prosecution under section 7-6F-2. The proposed amendment of section 11-4-3 is the heart really of this proposed ordinance, and that the current section 11-4-3 applies to violations of rules and regulations and authorizes removal of a person from city property under certain circumstances. The proposed amended section 11-4-3 would be applicable to all city property, including parks, and provide that a person who commits a rule violation may be subject to a variety of different responses, including a verbal warning, ejectment from city property for 24 hours, and/or exclusion from city property for a limited length of time. So I'd like to note with regards to that it's envisioned that a verbal warning will generally be given to allow a person a reasonable opportunity to seize the rule violation that's being engaged in. However, there are certain instances where a verbal warning is not required, such as if there's dangerous behavior occurring. And the failure to give that verbal warning would not make an ejectment or exclusion invalid. It would still be valid. I'd also like to clarify that with regards to the ejectment or exclusion from city property, that would be specific to the city property where the rule violation occurred. So for example, if you were excluded, if you engaged in a rule violation in a park and received a notice of exclusion from that park, it would be specific to that park. It wouldn't be for all the city parks. And so this provision providing for a variety of different potential responses to rule violations is again based upon case law, where courts have indicated a strong disfavor of a one-size-fits-all punishment. So regardless of what the rule violation is, the same punishment would be applied, the same length of exclusion would be applied. And courts have disliked that in the case law that's been reviewed. So the proposed amendment of section 11-4-3 would provide that pursuant to administrative guidelines, authorized officials shall utilize discretion in determining whether to issue an ejection and/or exclusion. And it's envisioned that administrative guidelines would take the form of a code of conduct that's applicable to all city property, which will be in the form of 2 tiers, with tier 1 involving identifying lesser violations such as littering and providing guidance on the types of responses for those rule violations under tier 1. And generally the main distinction between the tier 1 guidance for responses and the tier 2 guidance for responses would be the length of exclusion if an exclusion is going to be issued. So it would be a shorter exclusion for a tier 1 rule violation. And then tier 2 would be more serious rule violations such as threatening to assault a staff member. And again, it would be there would be guidance in there as to types of responses for those tier 2 rule violations, and including a longer length of exclusion that's recommended. And also, I'd like to note that if a person, that guidance would indicate that if a person has been previously subject to a notice of exclusion, that a longer length of exclusion would be recommended. So the proposed amendment of section 11-4-3 would also provide for an appeals procedure that's protective of due process rights, including by providing for an exclusion from city property to go into effect 4 days after issuance unless timely and properly appealed, providing for an exclusion from city property to be stayed if timely and properly appealed until resolution of the appeal, and permitting a person issued an exclusion to file a written request to modify the exclusion if no appeal is pending and facts or circumstances change. And I'd like to note with regards to that third option that was included directly based upon input and suggestions received from library staff as another option available to people who become subject to an exclusion. With regards to the first provision mentioned on this slide with pertaining to an exclusion going into effect 4 days after issuance as opposed to immediately into effect after issuance, that is again directly based upon case law that's been reviewed, where courts have strongly disfavored and struck down ordinances in part on this key factor of whether there's a pre-deprivation due process hearing when an exclusion is issued. So the proposed ordinance was passed on the first reading on January 4th. and it's anticipated that the ordinance will be on the consent agenda on January 18th for the second reading. Assuming it passes on the 18th, then it will become effective 30 days after publication. So approximately 33 to 35 days after January 18th. So that would be mid to late February is when it would go into effect, assuming it passes on the second reading and then thereafter based upon publication. So the code of conduct, I can't remember if I mentioned this, but the code of conduct will be posted throughout the city, and so that everyone is aware of the behavior and conduct that's expected. Addendums would be posted for certain facilities where there's unique aspects, such as the library, that require additional restrictions to be posted. So that would be something that would be posted in the library as an addendum for the library. And also I anticipate providing training of staff and written guidance to staff on how to utilize the code of conduct in conjunction with the proposed ordinance, so that staff and who constitute authorized officials understand how to utilize this. And also I will be preparing and circulating this notice, a form for the notice of exclusion, so that people aren't being required to draft it themselves. There will already be a notice that I will be preparing for them to utilize. And that notice will contain a variety of different information, including information regarding the appeals procedures, so that it won't be up to the person issuing the notice of exclusion to explain to the person receiving the notice of exclusion, here's the appeals procedure. No, it will already be contained in that notice. And also the proposed ordinance provides that the service of the notice is valid even if a person attempts to refuse that service. So even if a person is handed a notice of exclusion and they throw it away or they rip it up in front of the staff member, it's still valid. That won't make it not valid. So I think that's all I have prepared. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Since this is drafted in response to court decisions and case law, is this amendment, does it, compared to the long-standing, like the 1985 exclusion and ejectment ordinance, is this weaker than the existing ordinance that likely would not stand court scrutiny?
So I wouldn't describe it as weaker. I would describe it as different. It is very different, which is why training will be provided, as well as I anticipate likely written guidance. It's the current sections provide for a practice that, courts are not accepting right now, generally speaking. And that case law is not binding on Englewood at the moment, but it is persuasive, and there is a clear trend. For example, there was a case in Denver, and so it's definitely something that needs revision. And this proposed ordinance has been very carefully drafted based upon a review of that national case law. So it's been drafted to be as strong as possible in terms of responses available to rule violations, while also addressing the concerns raised by courts pertaining to due process.
Okay, I mean, does the 1985 ordinance provide for like permanent exclusion, for instance?
No, it does not. So my understanding is that the 1985 version, which is the current version,
right,
it was being utilized to provide for, I believe, approximately a year's length of exclusion. And I believe the proposed ordinance provides for a maximum length of exclusion of 180 days. And that is if a person has been subject to a prior exclusion from city property for any reason on 2 or more occasions within 3 years. So that is And again, that's been based upon case law, but the current version, yes, it provides for, I believe, a year's length of exclusion.
So this cuts that in half then. Well, a little under half. The 4 days, does that mean that, like, if someone is abusive toward library staff, they basically get 4 free days to keep being abusive after being excluded?
Absolutely not. So the exclusion, yes, you're correct in that, in your understanding that it won't go into effect for 4 days. However, if a person returns to city property within that time period while the exclusion has not yet gone into effect, they're still subject to this ordinance and to the code of conduct. And so if they commit another rule violation, they can be again ejected, which would be immediately going into it, which would go immediately into effect for 24 hours from that city property. They can receive another notice of exclusion. And again, that notice of exclusion would be for a longer length of time, which should serve as a deterrent. And also, there is always the option, and this will be identified in that code of conduct potential responses, of calling law enforcement for the potential of a citation or fine, or even an arrest occurring. And particularly when there are safety concerns involved, it has been my advice, and it continues to be my advice, that law enforcement should be called if there's ever a safety concern, or a concern that a staff member believes that conduct of a patron may be rising to the level of criminal misconduct or criminal conduct. Even if it's not, even if they're just they're concerned that it might be, and they would feel safer with law enforcement present, law enforcement should be called. And I have, like I said, I've coordinated with the Englewood Police Department. They are very aware of this. And I think that they've been coordinating with the library staff as well, to try to address these safety concerns. And so that is absolutely a response that continues to need to be utilized. But in terms of those 4 days, those responses are still available. So they could receive, if they return the next day, for example, and commit another rule violation, they could be ejected.
Okay. The exclusion periods wouldn't rack up concurrently, though. I mean, 180 degrees would be the maximum, right? Even if someone kept getting called up.
Yes. I see a hand up for Andy.
One quick question on this, and I work for the city of Denver, so I get the battle of the courts over this. So thank you for the work on this. Does this also pertain to the grounds of the library? I know it's a public space as well as an RTD stop, but how do we sort of just pushing them out the door per se, if they're still causing trouble outside? Is that a different exclusion from that property? Does that exclusion cover that space? Say they're in the parking lot or in front of the library or in the half circle there. Do they need to issue a different one? Does that need to go to a different person to issue? How does that sort of work?
So I think that so the code of conduct is applicable to all city property, with addendums specific to with addendums that will be prepared for certain facilities such as the library. So if they commit a rule violation in the library, regardless of whether they decide to walk out the door as this process is being engaged in, walk out the library door, that rule violation still occurred in the library. And so the exclusion will be for the library. If they commit a rule violation in the library and then they walk out the door and are still in the Civic Center, for example, and commit another rule violation while in the Civic Center, but not in the library, the code of conduct is applicable in the Civic Center, the general code of conduct. And so another response to that new rule violation can be issued.
Would it be expected upon the library staff to do that? Or who would we direct the library staff to talk to if it was outside of the 4 walls of the library per se? And that's my last question, so thank you.
Sure. So there are several authorized officials identified in the proposed ordinance, including the city manager or their designees, any staff supervisor, staff manager, or department director for the city or their designees, and any Englewood police officer or park ranger. And so in that instance, if they're outside of the library and a rule violation is occurring, any one of those authorized officials could issue a notice of exclusion. So if someone, for example, if library staff observes someone leave the library and commit another rule violation, and they're concerned about it and they want to have that addressed, they could go out and address it if they're an authorized official, or they could call law enforcement, and law enforcement could come out and address it. So it wouldn't necessarily be the responsibility of the library staff to follow that person who's committing rule violations around and continue to issue new rule violations if new rule violations are occurring outside of the library. There are other authorized officials available, but that library staff member could contact one of those, such as law enforcement, to come issue that additional notice of exclusion or ejectment or verbal warning or any of those potential responses available.
Great, thank you.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
And by the way, thanks. I appreciate you being here and answering these. What are the potential penalties if someone continues to violate an exclusion order?
Good question. I'm glad you asked. So that is the purpose of the proposed amendment of section 7-6F-2. So if someone violates a notice of exclusion, they can be subject to trespass prosecution. It is also possible, it's also indicated in the proposed ordinance that someone who violates the rule violation, who commits a rule violation, would also be subject to the general penalties under the Englewood Municipal Code, which I believe can include fines or jail.
Okay, so it's a municipal it's a potential municipal violation.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and I'll stop sharing my screen because I just realized I forgot to do that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming. That was very informative.
Sure.
Interesting to see.
And I plan on staying through the rest of this meeting. So if you think of something else, just ask me.
Okay.
Great. Thanks. I think Christina's next.
Yeah, so if Debbie can share, I put a little presentation together regarding some staffing issues we're having and then library hours too. So recently,
can I just ask something real quick? Did anybody else just lose the screen, the visual screen? Or is everybody else still seeing each other?
Well, now Christina's sharing. It's a presentation.
No, I mean, I just see the click open link screen. Oh, well, yeah, I can hear you, so keep going.
okay.
Or do you want to hang up and rejoin, or?
I'll hit launch meeting. Wish me luck.
Okay.
Okay. I'll have Debbie go to the next slide there. So as we were talking about before, we have a lot of city staff with COVID, and unfortunately, our library has been hit with COVID too, and potential cases, meaning they had to get tested in that time frame, they were out of work. So just recently, we did have staff return back to the library after having COVID or potential COVID, but 3 of the 6 part-time staff were out. We should have 12 part-time staff, but we're short-staffed as it is. We have new staff starting in a couple weeks, but we need to get them trained and to understand our library system. So that was one issue that we had. The other issue was on December 17th, the library manager resigned. So Mark Mullis is no longer the manager of the library. So we've been without one for almost a month now. We do have that position posted and hope to hire a qualified individual within the next month or month and a half. We have had a major increase in behavioral issues with patrons the last few months. Honestly, since we reopened after COVID closures, we have just seen a lot of people coming into the library and giving our staff some major challenges, not necessarily following rules. That's why this trespass ordinance is very timely in being implemented. We're happy to have that option now as something the staff and PD can utilize to hopefully gain some control over some of the issues we've been having. We do have patrons coming in asking library staff if they can help them look up their COVID results, test results, or they're visibly sick, even though we have signage everywhere. People are still coming in coughing. We've had staff that have asked patrons to put on a mask and they cough on the staff. And it's just, you know, nothing that these staff have ever thought they'd have to deal with. And mask mandates have been a daily challenge. We're getting a little bit more forceful and letting people know if you do not put a mask on and wear it properly over your nose and mouth, you will have to leave the library. And that has been challenging. People want to do what they want to do, and the poor staff have had to deal with that. So, and then the last major challenge is our contract security company. They have been having no shows for shifts, so we're already understaffed, and then our security company's not showing up. They told us that they are not enforcing the mask mandate. So we have some security guards that do come that are great, and then others that just don't want to help us out at all. They're not always prepared to step into situations to help our staff out or be proactive in situations. And we had one situation, and no knock to this lady, but she was in her 70s, and we had a almost physical altercation between a staff member and an upset patron, and that individual didn't step in to help out, which I don't blame her, but we really need to have somebody in place that can really help our staff out when needed. So we are working on updating the security contract. Englewood PD has been great. They have been coming through the library. We have posted overtime shifts for Englewood police officers to pick up. They have been on mandatory overtime for a while. They're also experiencing staffing shortage due to illness. And so they can't always be present, but when they are, they do help. Go to the next slide. There we go. And then the good news is we have hired an in-house security specialist. They're starting February 2nd. They were actually part of the contract, and we love this individual. They were very proactive, got to know our staff, interviewed very well, said a lot of great things about getting to know your patrons and build relationships. So hopefully you can de-escalate a little easier getting to know these people. So they're starting on February 2nd. Right now we're planning an all staff training to go over what Kate talked about for the trespass ordinance, PD training for staff on responding to various situations. We've had some reluctancy on calling PD in some situations because a lot of the time, whatever the issue was, if we had somebody that was screaming in the library, staff call PD, and by the time they get there, even if it's a few minutes later, a lot of times that individual is left, and now it looks like we're just crying wolf, and the situation's no longer. And so we want to have a training with PD and with our staff to get everybody on the same page, as well as de-escalation training. The library staff did go through a similar training this last fall, but we want to continue to offer these trainings so staff have the confidence when they do get put into precarious situations. They know how to respond and they're confident in their response. So it'll be all staff. We'll probably end up having the library shut down for half a day. So from 9 a.m. till noon, the training will happen. Like I said, February 6th is the goal for now. It might change a little bit, but we'll post online, and so everybody knows when we are going to be closed. Go to the next slide. So with the challenge we recently had, one thing we did eliminate was Sunday services at the library. And that has helped us greatly with some of the staffing concerns. The big concern is moving forward. We just don't know who's going to get sick when and who's going to be out. And if we go into a condition of 4 staff or less that are available to work, we really should not open the library due to safety concerns. We have 5 different areas of the library that we typically staff. And so the goal is to have a temporary plan in place while the staff recover. The library does not want to be closed. We've had lots of conversations with the library staff. They want to be open. They enjoy providing services to our patrons, and we really don't want to eliminate any services. But as you all know, we were closed for a large portion of when COVID was kicking off. We did open the option for curbside service for materials to be picked up. And so the recommendation is to be able to offer that Monday through Saturday with limited staff, 9:30 to 5. We'd still be offering the reference readers advisory via phone and email. Computers would still be available. We know this is a service that members of our community really do need to have access to our computers. And so we would only allow 10 computers to be available for a 2-hour time block. It'd be on a reservation basis. We've done this before and it worked fairly well. We did not have near the issues we had now that we're fully open and it's a first come, first serve, and we're getting every walk of life in the library that staff are working with. And then family story times and programming would still occur on the second floor. Granted, if case counts go up or staff get sick, that might go back to virtual. But really what we're looking at doing is having a plan in place that we can enact at a moment's notice. We would work with our communications team, post online, Facebook, social media, to make sure the word gets out that the library has now modified their services due to low staffing. So Debbie, go to the next slide. So the charter states on H there, as far as powers and duties, that the board is able to assess the need of the community and base thereon to make recommendations to the city manager and the city council pertaining to the general public policies related to the operation of the library. So I'd like to have a discussion with all of you on your thoughts on this. It's a unique situation that we're sitting in because, like I said, at any given moment, we could have a number of staff out sick and not able to come into the library. And so from the board's perspective, I'd like to hear concerns that you have. If this is something you support, we would draft a memo that Amy, depending on what you all decide tonight, that would go to city council and our city manager for next steps to give the library options if we reach any critical levels of staff. So I know that's a lot, but happy to answer questions.
It seems well thought out. I mean, that's scary that you could get down to staffing levels that low. I totally understand why you would need to close. Would you just like put signage out and?
Yeah, what we did during the holidays, granted, we were closed the same as the city was for the holidays normally, so that helped us a little bit. But we would post on the doors, you know, the library is closed, reservation only for computers. Curbside pickup is available, and we could work at minimal staff, very minimal staffing levels if that were to occur.
Andy?
Is there a way, I know we're dealing with this in Denver, like we've got so many units, short staff, people are getting moved around. Is there a way to temporarily reassign other Englewood city staff to support the library in terms of like temporary support?
And that's a conversation we've had. I think some of the challenges are like our recreation staff was more than willing to come over and just be a body in the library. The challenge is you do have to have special training to operate a lot of the library systems. You have access to personnel records and various things. And not that we have a concern of our recreation staff because they deal with medical records and other things for programs they have, but it's definitely something that we have considered. But they're also experiencing staffing shortages and having to move people around between our centers to make sure we have adequate coverage as well. So it's just, this is just unique.
And hopefully short-lived.
Hopefully.
I have a question, or I guess it's a question, maybe not. I mean, if you simply don't have the staff on hand to operate, I don't know what alternative there would be to closing during that time.
Yeah, and that's the challenge we have faced. The staff, like last Friday and Saturday, we were at critical low levels. And we had our full-time librarians who have already worked a full week and beyond who came in to make sure the library was open on Saturday and worked their shift on Saturday to cover for the staff that were out. You know, that's a challenge because everybody's getting tired through all of this and we don't want to burn out our staff. So we've gone through a lot of different scenarios to make sure we can open and it's safe to open too. We need to have enough staff in the building. So if an incident does occur, somebody's not alone, or there's only a couple people trying to manage the situation.
I guess I wonder is 4 high enough? Like, should it be if you have 5 staff? Like, I don't know how to ask that, but
I asked Selene and the library supervisors we've been meeting regularly, and 4 was the bare minimum to make sure we have adequate staff to be able to provide the services that we have and that people are looking for.
I think that in my perspective, like protecting the staff is as much of a priority as keeping the library open. Like, and if you need to raise that to 5 or 6, I don't know what your usual operational numbers are, but like if you need to raise that, I think that's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Selene, how many did we operate on Saturday with?
For part of the day, 4, and then because we were so limited, we did drop down to 3, but that was really tough. We didn't have a security person that day, so it was a lot of extra mask enforcement, and it was a tough day.
Yeah, and to be operating more than like one day, you have to plan for maybe like a 5-day period or whatever. To have 4 people working full time for 4 days, that just doesn't feel like enough human power.
Library staff did actually make the request that we move to the proposal of curbside services, limited computer use through the month of January, while we know case counts are continuing to increase and we just don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Our hope is nobody gets sick, but as some of us have found out, you just can't avoid it. So yeah, so that was a proposal from staff. So that might be an opportunity to get our new staff hired and on board and trained. So come February, our new security personnel starting, we'll have training, we'll be in better shape, hopefully, fingers crossed, to really open fully and be back to 100% without the concerns we're facing today.
Yeah, I would agree with Marie. I mean, if staff doesn't feel safe and respected and cared for, I mean, you know, like 1,000 years ago in another life, I was a firefighter, and the triage rules are if a firefighter gets hurt, they're at the front of the line because to get help, because if you don't, people won't stay, you know. And I mean, I want the library to be open very much, but, and I'm sure staff feels that way too, but staff's got to feel safe and watched out for.
Yeah, I'm definitely not opposed to going to, like, you know, making a plan and setting a plan of like, we're closing the library and we're offering curbside pickup for, you know, the next few weeks to get us to February. That way, like, the staff that is working is staying safe, you know, assuming you guys can stay safe within the library. And but I think, yeah, to protect staff, like, yes, it's a huge priority to keep the library open, and I'm appreciative to hear that staff wants that. But I think the community will be more than understanding of services being limited during, you know, a peak season right now with COVID.
I think for someone like me who is not going anywhere too, like, I will put in some book requests, get some circulation going, because I haven't stepped foot in the library for months and months because I don't feel safe going in there necessarily. So I don't know.
I think probably some of the concern though is that, you know, some of the more vulnerable people don't have other places to go when it's January and it's cold, and
the
library is their resource. So I can see why the staff want to stay open if they can.
I'm sure that, like what you were just saying, Amy, that's, I mean, potentially I maybe am insinuating, but potentially that's leading to some of these like behavior issues as well. And just the difficulty with security, like it's kind of like a trifecta, unfortunately, is what it sounds like. But I still strongly agree. Like, I think if we need to go remote and just do, you know, curbside pickup for the next few weeks, that would be something that I would definitely support.
You know, part of this same presentation concerned the Sunday closures, and so I don't think this is out of order here. Is there a hoped for date to return to Sundays being open?
This was temporary to get us through the holidays, January. We did look at other libraries in the area, and most of them are all closed. Denver, I think, only has one library that's open on Sundays. And we're one of the few libraries right off the RTD stop. And so a lot of our issues had been occurring on Sundays, and Sundays were a low staff day as well. And so it was kind of a quick request of the city manager if we could just shut down on Sundays while we recover. And then we had other things happen with COVID cases. And
Mhm.
security not showing up and all of that. So the goal for all of this is to be temporary, so we can get staff back up. Like I said, we should have 12 part-time associates. We only have 6 and we've had 3 out. So one of the 3 has come back, one's still in recovery, and one may be out for a longer period of time. So yeah, so the goal would be to go back regular service hours down the road here once we get our feet underneath us.
Yeah, I'm really surprised the staff are so willing to come in. I think that if I were your staff, I would quit. It sounds absolutely dangerous that you're bringing people into that situation where you have security guards that will not work, security guards that are not showing up, and people that are threatening library staff. I mean, I think it's appalling that the library is still open if things are that bad. It should be shut down or curbside pickup right now.
So what do we need to do next? What's our next
Yeah,
steps
sorry.
here?
Tim, do you have any recommendation on next steps? Do we need to put a memo together from the library board making these recommendations? Do we need to take an official vote approving to go back to curbside through the month of January? What would you recommend the next steps to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really up to the board. So you certainly could take a vote on it if you want to. You could, you know, make a motion to have Christina and staff write a memo, kind of expressing your opinion. So it's really up to you in terms of how you want to make that recommendation.
I mean, I think maybe we take a vote and then we'll still do the memo too. Then we double time it for consistency purposes.
Is through January enough? Like, should we be more open with our recommendation?
Well, maybe we could say at least through.
Okay.
But I wonder if we do it through the next board meeting and we have another conversation, we can give you an update on our staffing levels. Because like, we don't know what the future is going to bring. The hope is everybody stays healthy, but like we experienced, it just kind of hit us hard, unwillingly and unknowingly.
Yeah,
I would favor that. I was thinking through the next meeting.
Mm-hmm. It's February 8th, so it's like a little bit less than a month.
Yeah.
The only thing I would add is if for some reason you have a miraculous recovery and you're up to staff, that you sort of don't wait for us to open if you feel comfortable. But I think I would support us returning to limited services until the next board meeting, unless things miraculously turn around, which we all hope they do. But I know this has taken me out for more than a week.
I like that idea. Maybe we could vote to make a motion along something like Andy just said, and that it would be a memo that Christina writes up. That is more of our recommendation.
Yeah.
Does that sound like what we want to do?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Help me out here. I make a motion to allow the library to move to limited services, including curbside, or per your recommendations outlined in that thing you showed us.
The emergency services plan, was that the name of it, Christina?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
All right. And are we just allowing this? Is that what we're?
I say we recommend it.
We recommend it. And we recommend that Christina writes a memo to this situation. And
that we say effective immediately. Or as soon as possible.
Is that what we want? Effective immediately? Christina, is that what you think?
Yeah, I mean, we're in kind of the same situation we were a week ago. So I would say effective immediately. We would probably remain with regular services tomorrow just because of the timing of everything. But then starting on Thursday, the 13th, we would move to the recommendation of curbside, computer by reservation only.
Okay, so that's part of the motion. And then regular hours can resume based on the staff's return to health and new staff being trained.
So this would be authorizing through the next meeting
through, yeah,
Possibility of re-upping then.
Yeah,
Sure.
through February 8th,
let's say February 9th.
9th, yeah.
Okay, February 9. So that's the motion. Did you get that, Debbie?
I'll second it. Debbie, can you be the wordsmith?
You know, I got my paper's a little messy, but I got it.
Okay.
Thanks, Debbie. I knew we could count on you.
And Amy, we'll send it over to you to sign off on before we forward this on.
Okay,
So-
that sounds good.
Oh, and has somebody seconded yet?
I seconded.
Okay.
Marie seconded that. Okay, so all in favor, please vote aye. Show your hand.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, all right, so the motion passes.
Thank you.
Boy, serious library business here.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's very scary though, that you're in that position, and I know how we are at Human Services. It's still in a, an emergency basis, basically. So you guys should be too, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Most serious vote we've ever had in my whole term on the board. For sure.
And
Thank
you all for your
you,
understanding,
Christina.
too.
And
Yeah.
Selene, thank you for everything you're doing for our community.
Sure.
Yeah, for
It
real.
does not go unnoticed.
Be sure and tell the staff that too, that we're
Yeah,
just
we will.
in awe of the great things that they're doing, and that they came up with these recommendations and even are still allowing services, even though it's not just all open. At least they still were thoughtful about the services they want to provide and can provide. So
I do kind of want to ask, I guess, about the elephant in the room, with Mark leaving. That to me seems very abrupt. Was this like abrupt to you all, or was this something that you guys kind of saw coming? I just would like to hear a little bit more background on that.
Yeah, I can't talk to the whole situation, but pretty much wanted to be a stay-at-home dad and chose to leave the library. So it's been challenging across the board with staffing levels, COVID cases. I mean, we weren't even peaking yet when he left, but it's just challenging. The public is definitely a challenge, and it's unfortunate that we've seen such an increase in these challenges. And I have talked to other libraries, and I've heard this is a nationwide issue with just people being outright rude to staff. And I know I've seen it in our golf course was one of the first places to open when COVID first kicked off. And the amount of times our staff were berated and yelled at, I'm like, you're playing golf, have fun. Like, why are you so angry at our staff? And so that's tenfold in the library. This is a free service. And it's just been taxing on the staff. I know many of you all work, and it's hard. COVID just isn't ending like we hope it had a year ago, even with the vaccines out. And now it's a different stress because people are getting sick and having to deal with it. So yeah, Andy.
Is there, I don't know if there's a way to provide some sort of hazard pay or additional bonuses or something to ensure the folks that are there stay. I
Sure.
know, look, I work at the clerk's office, we're dealing with the same level of crazy from people that have lost their damn minds, but I don't know, and this is sort of an Englewood question, but I don't think we can do it through our supplemental budget, but I don't know if there's a way or if the city is in negotiations or talking about finding additional funds to support the sort of lower wage worker folks.
That's a great thing to bring up. I mean, the staff really did appreciate the breakfast that we had for them at the holidays. We got them new sweatshirts that are fun. I mean, it helps with morale a little bit. As far as, so all city staff got a 3.5% raise this year. And then library staff were working with HR and finance to give them additional 2.5% too. So we do have a discretionary bonus program, and some of the staff that have really gone above and beyond. I mean, even just showing up on days, picking up extra shifts, those little things, we were able to give them a discretionary bonus towards the end of the year. And that's going to continue through this next year. So it's definitely, we'll try to make it through these next few months here and do the same thing as we go forward this year. So yeah, I agree with you, Andy. This is a challenge I don't think any industry has ever faced. The stress, the personal stress, family stress, we talk about work-life balance. How do you do that when you're in COVID conditions and you're having to go to work and people are being rude to you and coughing on your face and won't wear masks? And it's just unfortunate. It's actually a really sad state we're in for libraries. Libraries were once a really safe space to go. I used to love going to the library as a kid. Even as a professional, I used to spend my lunches in the library on the computer or looking at books. And I go down there now to support our staff, but it's not necessarily a place I'd want to hang out just because of the clientele we see coming in. It's really unfortunate. And I know there's a lot of different things in motion that will help us in the long run. We just got to get through these first few months here. And hopefully we'll be a lot stronger in the end.
Yeah, when you describe people coughing in others'
Mhm.
faces, I mean, that's just awful. That's just
And
awful.
just coming in to find test results. I know that's the only option, but that's just like, that's painful.
It's shocking to the staff. Selene worked this last weekend and had a couple situations pop up that it's like, you got to be kidding me. We have signs posted everywhere. Do not enter this facility if you're coughing or you don't feel well. And if you do come in, wear a mask. Yeah.
Are you providing, are we providing to our staff KN95s?
Yes, we have a variety of different masks depending on what they personally want to use. Some bring their own in, but we have a good supply of masks for our staff and then for patrons too.
Okay.
Coming in. So we do hand masks out regularly. Sometimes they end up in the book drops or thrown on the ground or thrown back at staff, but we are providing them.
Okay, great.
And do we still, I know like last year we talked a lot about just resources for, you know, our underserved community that do utilize library services. Are we still like those resources are still visible for all of those patrons?
Yeah, I think the plan for those right now, they come in on Mondays from 11:30 to 2:30, and we'll still be able to continue that because a lot is appointment based, or people can wait in the lobby and we can call them back. So we can still offer all those services every Monday, and that group has been excellent, and the services are definitely being utilized, and that's something we want to continue.
All right, any other commentary on that? Or are we ready to move to the next thing?
Can we move to fuzzy bunnies and unicorns?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, if that's what you consider the statistical report stuff.
It's like, this is pretty grim. Yeah, I mean, seriously, tell your staff they're appreciated as others have expressed.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I will.
I will be sure to pass that along as well.
Thank you, Selene.
And thank you for supporting us in that. Moving to curbside and so forth. Okay, statistical report. Well, there was an overall increase in registered patrons by 13% from December last year to December this year. And I would say 85% of that are Englewood patrons. Our collection size, if you compare it to last month, increased by 235 items, but it's actually down from December 2020 because our collections librarian went through and did a deep reading. So we pulled out outdated materials and replaced old items with either a new copy of that item or some new resources. Our physical circulation was up 46% this year compared to last year. And I'm very excited to see that. Our digital materials decreased somewhat, but Canopy circulation increased 32%. I don't know if any of you use that. That's a streaming service. They have the, I'm drawing a blank right now. A collection, it's kind of unusual movies, but then they've added some additional stuff. So they, the Milestone collection, restoring lost films in the area of classic cinema masterpieces, groundbreaking documentaries, and American independent features. So if you're looking for something a little bit different, that's a good place to go. With a library card, you can do that. With total circulations, we're up 15%. So we like that. Our questions answered was up by 56% compared to last year. And the attendance for our children's and teen programs were increased quite a lot as well. The children's program attendance was up 53%, and then the teen program attendance was up 11%. And do you guys have any questions regarding any of these numbers?
The year over year would reflect the time. Was the library still closed at this time last year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
With the beginning of the new year, there was some comment from a prior meeting that the daily statistics potentially being removed. I believe that's the questions answer. I don't know. Or are there other things that you guys would like to see?
I don't remember what it was that one girl talked about adding. Does someone else remember?
It was it was like
Selene.
social media reach and
Yeah.
those different pieces. But I think right now with the staffing changes, I would not
Yeah.
stress about that at all. I think that
Sure.
Keep
the
it
numbers are going to
easy.
be real wonky for a while. So I think we'll look to you to give us your pulse of where you think, if we're ahead or behind of where you think we should be. But definitely, I think that right now I wouldn't go out of your way to add any additional work to anyone's plate, just so we can look at it and ooh and ah.
Okay.
Selene, do you want to go over November numbers or
I
move on to the action plan?
I can, since those were there. I guess I would highlight that the total patrons registered again, the Englewood Patrons, that went up 85%. I think.
Do you have any idea why that like went up so much? Like has there been any outreach that's helped
We
that,
do
or
cards every day.
Okay.
I haven't done these statistics a lot. I'm not sure
Yeah.
exactly how.
I thought part of it was from the school, the drive at the school
Yeah.
to get cards registered there too.
Yeah, I would imagine that's part of it, and that.
Okay.
I'm thinking.
No worries.
Stop at me.
That's okay. That just seems like a really big jump, so that's good.
I don't have any questions about November. Are we okay to move on to the action plan?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
this has not been updated since our November meeting with Mark leaving. Being the staffing situation that we're in this next month, we're going to have the supervisors go through this and make any changes or recommendations moving forward for this 2022 year. And then we'll bring it to you in February to add anything you want to it. So you can review this. I don't anticipate it's going to change a whole lot because a lot of this is status quo for the library. But when we get to the February meeting, we'll definitely look for your input to add additional items on here. And we'll have the different supervisors. So Selene had this month. We've got Megan, Kimberly, and Michelle left. So each supervisor are going to cover a month until we get the library manager on board. I hope to have them on board before April, but at least they'll be new. So we'll make sure the staff are covering this. So take a look at this on your own time if you have a chance. And if you have any great ideas, bring them to the board meeting in February. We'll update it and go from there.
Yeah, I think I would continue to say, like, take care of yourselves, keep it going. I think keeping things moving is more important than like new innovative ideas right at this moment.
Sure, yeah, we can always add to. That's the nice thing about this this action plan is
Yeah.
if somebody has a great idea come June, we can always add it. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I know the staff will too.
And the goals that were set last year are good goals for more
Yeah.
than 1 year. Like
Sure.
they don't just shut off at the end of the year.
These
so
years are all the same right now, so
that's what it feels like.
Still 2019, I swear.
yeah.
I don't even
yeah,
know what day
yeah.
it is.
I
or even
agree.
With more gray hairs.
Okay, and so we've been talking about future capital projects. We are going to be entering the budget season in the next couple of months. So I had Debbie help me out and put this memo together of the projects that we've discussed over the last months of ideas for possible capital integration for the library down the road. We don't have to finalize this just yet, but this is a memo that will come from the library board to the city manager and the finance department as recommendations. So we're going to want to narrow this list down because obviously we won't be able to do everything. My priority may be looking at things like emergency exits, improving the safety of the library first. A new library is not going to happen in the next year or 5 years probably. So that can always stay on there, but it won't be something we would necessarily recommend moving forward in 2023 with. So again, these will be all projects we'll implement or look at implementing if we receive funding in 2023. So like I said, I think the safety component would be not my number one goal moving forward to get the library to a place that everybody does feel a lot safer when they come to the library. So this will be something we can continue to review. Let's plan in February. We can take a few things off this list or just put to the side and we can always have it in our back pocket for future years as well.
Could you also see like if the staff has like a top 5 too or something like that?
Yeah, we can ask the supervisors to rank these and then put it as our recommendation to you all and you can go from there.
That would
That's a
be
good
great.
idea. Thank you.
If we could get that before the meeting too.
Sure, yeah.
Via email.
You got it.
Thank you.
If you went with one entrance, would it more likely be the side coming off the parking garage or the side coming off the circle?
The thought would be to close both those sides and have equal access in the middle where the computers are. There's glass windows there and making that the only entrance into the library. There'd be some things that would have to move. We'd have to move where the computers are, maybe more to the middle. But that's not impossible to do. And so that was the thought that I had with Mark. We talked through like, what could we do? Adding emergency exits in the children's area next to the parent room, putting in emergency exits there. It's currently near the parent room is just a window seat. So that could be an emergency exit. And having one entry point, I think could help the library out a whole lot because right now people are coming from all different directions.
It seems like there's a thought of safety first, basically, like emergency exits and other safety things. And I personally would certainly concur with that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. So if that concludes old business, then next up is staff's choice. Do you all have anything additional to add?
I think we've shared everything with you already. We're happy. We're happy it's a new year. We were hoping for a better start, but I appreciate the support from the board and moving forward with the recommendations staff has, and just your overall staff support has been amazing. So thank you very much.
And from our new school liaison, maybe we could say hello to you.
Yes, hello. It's nice to see you all. Thanks for letting me participate. I guess if we talk about what's right in front of us, you can just duplicate everything Christina said. It's the very similar environment, obviously trying to, keep the schools open this last semester. And, so far this week, as schools come back online, well, the end of last week, right, we've not had a lot of significant, quarantines or closures. We did have at one of the elementary schools, we had to put a grade out for a couple of days to go remote, not because of the COVID count but staffing issues, right? So it is COVID related, obviously, but so our biggest challenge right now in keeping the doors open is while the Omicron cases are certainly climbing right now, it's just a staffing challenge. So at the last board meeting, we did up the pay rate for subs. So if any of you are interested in subbing in Englewood schools, let me know. So that's going to help a little bit. And late last year, the board added an increase for paraprofessionals as well to try and get us back into market or a little above market on both of those pay rates. But the staff outages, the full-time normal teaching staff and administrative staff, it's been a real challenge. And we've got, folks from the district office, from the superintendent's office working in classrooms, trying to keep the schools open right now too. So Christina, like you, a lot of scrambling, a lot of moving things around like at the city as well. So that's the first thing right in front of us. And then, persistent, long-term, typical public school issues, funding, right, is never going to go away. But we are looking forward to some more strategic things. We need to revisit our strategic plan as a school district, and we're going to kick that off this spring. So we'll be asking, everyone in Englewood to participate in that. Would love to have you all put your thoughts in the ring for that one. We are posting very soon, or have just posted in the last day or so, a new position reporting to the superintendent for around diversity and equitable incomes and things like that, or equitable outcomes. So that's going to be a director cabinet level. I think it's going to be a cabinet level position. I think it's going to be an assistant director role. So there have been some efforts to do, use more outside folks to help with that work, and it hasn't been overly successful. So we're going to bring a resource in-house to do that. And then let's see what else. I think that's probably the big things going on right now. Obviously, Christina, we haven't had some of the more egregious behavioral challenges around mask wearing and COVID. And I will echo Scott, how horrific it is that people are coming in and coughing on your staff, right, when asked to put a mask on. I don't know that any of that stuff has gone on, but we obviously have parents and, caretakers for some of our children on both sides of the vaccination and the mask issues as well. So we get both ends of the spectrum there as well. So yeah, again, not quite some of that real nasty behavior, but the same challenges you're dealing with staffing. Obviously we have a bigger staff, so we do have some more flexibility in moving people around. If you're already at half staff and then half of that half is gone, I will echo what everyone else said and tell you thank you for what you're doing to keep any library services functioning. That's absolute kudos to you and the staff at the library to just have any basic services functioning for the library right now is a real testament to everyone's commitment to the city. So happy to answer any questions you have about what's going on in the schools, but that's sort of what's at the top of the list right now at this moment.
Great. Well, we're happy to have you. Thanks
Thank you.
for joining us.
Thank you.
You bet. Glad to be here. So I did serve on the school board many years ago, and then I took a break, and I was on the library board back then too. So this is like, Debbie remembers me. So yeah, it's kind of like coming home again. So the
I
library
remember you. Yeah.
was one of my favorites. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Next up, we have staff's choice. Board members' choice. Sorry, I'm backwards. Anyone? I'll go. I hear this is Guy's last meeting. Guy, thank you for being on the board. You've been awesome. We're gonna miss you, but
Yeah.
I'll still see
Yeah.
you because you work for the city.
No, I don't.
Nope.
You don't?
No, I left the city.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
I resigned. Yeah.
When was your last day?
Wednesday. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Last Wednesday. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that too. Well, we'll miss you on the board.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would sure also like to say thanks to Guy. Gosh, it's been, wow, 5.5 years since I came on, and Guy was always there and always thoughtful and thoughtful, like not just considerate, but thoughtful in thinking things through and looking at big picture and detail both really well. And it's just been a real pleasure to serve with you. I'll miss having you here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sounds. Yeah. It was fun. I think it was good.
How many years
It's been a
were you on?
challenging past couple of years, but it's been good. Good.
Yeah. How many years?
How many
were you
years?
on?
When was my first year? I don't remember. I think 2015 maybe. I think. Is that right?
I joined in 2016 and you were an old hand by then, so yeah.
Maybe it was 2014.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't move to Englewood till 2013, I think. So couldn't have been that long. Yeah.
I would check, Guy, but I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
don't know. It's been a while.
Anyone else have anything? No.
Just keep it on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, no, it
Thanks,
is-
everyone.
Yeah, thanks. It's 8:10 p.m. We'll adjourn the meeting and we'll see everybody next month.
All right. Take care.
Thanks,
Happy New
everybody.
Year.
Hang in there.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
New Year.